too have the power of a god.
I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. I was born in this is wild. Immaculate conception, not your faith. Perform like this without you when you weapon. I know you I meditate that hunger. It's that it's that I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got poison, pain, and joy inside my inside my DNA.
And we are back. How y'all feeling?
Man, the opening always makes me want to fight.
Okay. It's so hype.
They got me ready to fight. That's it.
But you know what? This is it's the anime court is a debate. So yes.
You gotta break it when it like when you have that as your opening, it's like, oh shit, I don't know what comes next, but I am ready. Like, and it'd be like, yo, like that's how you feel. And I'm glad that the opening like have you hype because today is a hype ass day. Yo, hey Bria, we have been preparing, we have been going back and forth. This has been a long time in the making. For a lot of y'all, this is like, I mean, I've heard you say this before, but you've never heard me say this quite like I've said it before. So my first BlurredCon panel was Anime Court, and we put on for maybe like 20, 25 people because it was like a VIP only thing. And it was our first Anime Court. It was me and Mikey. We were very proud of it. We went up there, and I had this motherfucker. Like, I had him, like, foot on neck. He was down, backed against the wall. Even the people that haven't seen it were like, man, you even compared him to Killmonger? I see where you went there. Like, you know what? You might have me here. And then boom, in walks Michelle. And I'm like, yo, this couldn't have gone any worse. Like, I'm about to lose this. I had this one wrapped up in a bow. No, I lost. It was crazy. We go, we get drinks, and then the footage is lost. It's nowhere to be seen, ever. So, like, if you weren't in that room, you've never actually seen me and Michelle go at it. Until last BlurredCon, where we kind of got thrown out of a room for the three of us arguing.
No, that was the two of y'all. Let me get that right. I might have been like, yeah, whoop that trick. But that was definitely the two of y'all. I was not responsible. Someone else here can back me up in that regard, right?
Nah, somebody was the spark to that flame. Like, we might got Sparky on this side, but we all know that was a three-way fight. Like, we were deadlocked like the legendary Sanin. Except it was 2-on-1, and I was like, it was some JJK. Fight back, nigga, fight back. Like, oh.
Nah. She had you on some Obito action, my gosh. She was kind of just sitting there in the background watching, for real.
Yeah.
She might. I'm not gonna lie. Day Zero was kind of lit for Day Zero. So I don't remember if it was a situation where she started it, but I do know that she during the part where we right before we got kicked out, she was just kind of sitting there or watching with Show Enough, just kind of laughing at this little.
That's the whole thing that she sparked.
Maybe
and left us to fight
every so often. But
first of all, let me clear it up. Thank you, Dwight, number one, for coming to my rescue because he was lying on me. But also, I didn't start it; he started it. And I said, you a goddamn lie. And that's it. Okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway, we got into a big argument about Aaron, and we said, how we felt. And we all decided, you know what? There's only one place that we could do this. Because if we're getting kicked out of a hotel room, we might as well make some content out of it. Because I feel as though Aaron is guilty of crimes even before we get to the rumbling. Aaron did some crimes. And since it's National Women's Month, National Women's History Month, let me get it right before I get my ass whooped twice today. um, we brought on one of my friends, like one of our longtime friends. So Sparky started as a fan. We met her at a BlurCon, like what, 4 years ago at this point?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah. So So we met her through a mutual friend, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm bringing one of my friends down." Lo and behold, his friend is the one that's been getting in our ass in the comment section the whole time. So we get there, and one of our like other co-hosts of the time said, "Hey, you ain't gonna believe who's here." And we like, "Who's here? Like everybody should be here. Like what do you mean? We're running into friends, we're meeting people, like everybody's here." He's like, "Nah, Michelle's here." And I'm like, "Who's Michelle?" He's like, "Michelle from the comments." And I'm like, "Oh shit, you got ran up on by your hater?" And now she's my hater. I have inherited a hater.
I mean, there's love there in the center, and all of that hate, it's love. That's the core of it.
At the core of it. Well,
That's the core of it.
we're a little late today, but we're gonna get started. I am Maul, your favorite friendly neighborhood menace, joined by my favorite panelists and co-hosts as always. These are some of my dopest friends that I miss already. We were just hanging out with each other last week, and like, dog, BlurCon was a move. But getting kicked out of a hotel for the same argument that we about to have is not a move. So we're going to get started with introductions. I'm going to get started first with my friend to my right, to my left, this side. Obviously, camera works a different way. To my left, we have the reigning, defending champ of Anime Court, Princess Monohoke. Please introduce yourself.
What's good, guys? I'm happy to be here again. When I show up to Anime Court, I win. So let's just, let's put that back out there.
We're gonna bust
Happy to
this
be
record
here.
today. I believe in me.
Y'all know what it is. Y'all see the tagline. There's nothing else to say.
Listen, you can feel how you feel, but we're going to get down to the facts today. And the fact is, we love having you here. It is very seldom that we get a chance to have you on. You have been on everything from the flagship show that we need to get back to. Eventually, we'll circle back there. But everything. And now it's great to have you at Anime Court. We've seen you live at the panels, but now we're gonna finally settle this. And like, I know for a long while I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna bring you on. I'm gonna bring you on." And she was like, I'm waiting. And as a man of my word, we didn't do the episode until you here. Please introduce yourself, Sparky.
All right. Hey, y'all. Go by Sparky. Super excited to be here. You see the tagline that was cemented at the first Anime Court when they tried to put my boy Eren on trial. When I wholeheartedly stand 10 toes down, he did what he had to do. So I'm here to defend Eren.
Had to do is wild.
Also a long-term, fan supporter of the network, of the show, of this cohort of people. Amazing community. Make sure to always tune into their content if you can. Share, do all the things. And if you attended BlurCon, make sure to rate all of their stuff 5 stars so they can make sure to come
all
out
of it.
BlurCon thereafter. But I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to dig down to this stuff. I got notes. I got receipts. I got evidence, okay? We're ready to argue, or I should say debate, Eren's case here. So on why my man's innocent. That's all I got. Like, he's innocent. He tried. He tried his best. So I'm excited. But yeah, and overall, I'm a nerd like everyone else. I like cosplay. I like anime. I like video games. All that jazz.
All that jazz. And we love her for it. The only thing that I don't love about her would be her hot takes and her opinions whenever I'm at a panel. Because they'd be like, "Yo, who brought you? Whose man is this? Like every single time. Speaking of whose man's is this, now I need you, all right? I need you in the way that I was supposed to have you last time in the
Mhm.
Dracula case, but I
Are you trying
need
to
you in
slay a
this one.
judge? Are you?
My job here is to be impartial as
Oh my gosh!
I hear you on the impartial part. I understand, but I need you to understand that it's 201 and I'm about to get JJK whooped. All right. I'm talking
look,
about fight back,
look.
nigga, fight back. Like,
I look off camera. I told you the man essentially did win a coup. When these types of things happen, you can afford a team of lawyers. I will be impartial, but I cannot help you here.
winning a coup is wild in a monarchy.
A coup is a coup.
A coup is a coup. But as we start, keep in mind, a coup is a coup. All
It will
right.
be
So
definitely
now, now, Judge, my friend, my boy, my longtime Pokemon homie, that if you don't get this right, I'm gonna have to see you on the sticks tonight. Got my shit already charged and ready on the ones and twos. Please
mine.
introduce yourself.
First off, that team is not ready. Second off, it is my fault that we're a little bit late. Days long, but as per usual, I'm here, Judge B at Anime Court. We are here to actually go ahead and put Aaron on trial, see about the many crimes that he may or may not have committed, and honestly, part of me is just kind of here to watch Maul get torn to shreds by these two, but at the same time, he. At the same time, I've seen him argue some shit before. So let's go ahead and see what you got today.
I didn't threaten the judge. I just told the judge how things may or may not
For real,
go.
for real, for real, for real. I didn't even get a name out, nothing. Jay's right.
Oh my gosh!
You can't
Sometimes
be out here.
these things just
See,
happen.
you can't be out here live and in color, my guy.
Sometimes you just want to hug a judge. You never wanted to hug a judge?
No,
Not while they're in their chambers.
no, no. Anytime that I see a judge and I know for a fact that they're a judge, I actually would like to be on the other side of the wall, not anywhere near this shit.
Sometimes you just like, yo, let's get real friendly, judge.
I'm good. I am super good.
So we're going to get started. In the case of Aaron, here are the charges I would like to bring up, Your Honor. We would like to bring him on obstruction of justice, overthrowing the government. We would like to bring him up on property damage and murder, also mass murder, because those are two separate charges, and he did that in two separate cases. So
Slow
bringing
down.
him up,
Don't rap so fast, my guy. Hold on. You said obstruction of justice, murder, mass murder. Okay. What was the other one?
Overthrowing a government and property damage?
Oh, well.
because if they can get Al Capone on tax evasion, I can get him on property damage.
Oh, you're doing that thing again.
He's doing that thing
What
again.
Where you bring in things that don't pertain to the current case. This is why you lose. I just told you this like 20 minutes ago. And here you go again. Anyway, continue with your charges.
My charges are streaming from various medias that you could see. You can see that the defendant led the Titans out of the wall. They destroyed the property. They wrecked, what was it, 86, 90s? He wrecked a great amount of the world. And with that, he killed some people. There were some mass murders committed due to the charge of him releasing the Titans from the wall to stomp out the world. Now, while it may be said and stated that his reasons for doing so were to protect his own people, but by going against the will and the risk, by going against the will and the wishes of all of the people and considering what all of the people would want and how this would make them feel, how this would make them be seen, how this would go for them in their favor in the future, and what would happen to the rest of the world that they would have to live in beyond what one person decides, hey, I'm going to do. I made a decision. Now the rest of everyone else from my race has to deal with this. Every single person has to deal with the benefit of not only am I going to wipe out the Titans from your DNA, but I'm going to take away your biggest bargaining chip from the fact that you have, well, your second biggest bargaining chip. Your first biggest bargaining chip is you have fuels, fossil fuels of your island that you could bargain with to the rest of the people for your freedom and for some stake of the world. Second, your biggest bargaining chip was the fact that you had the Titans that were able to create a massive fighting force that while the rest of the world was catching up and able to defend against certain Titan shifters, there were still things that you had that they didn't. They couldn't defend against pure Titans the way that they were being made and sent, and they couldn't defend against the Titans in the wall because they were too large and too massive. The fighting force of so and the heat that they gave off was just too much. Lastly, I would like to bring up the overthrowing of the government. That was a monarchy. Now, while the scouts firstly tried to overthrow, they did not overthrow an entire government system. They tried to fix a corrupt system from what they could see of it charging them, they charging back, and him going in. Before this, you could see that the government was working and they had their own separate laws inside of the wall, none of which Eren actually resided by. Eren decided to overthrow the government. And even before this, as a child, sorry, let me get back to my last point about how he murdered. His first murder was for Mikasa. His father told him, because even as a child, Eren did not like to listen. Eren was angry. Eren was always running off, thinking, I know better than everybody. He ran off to go help out Mikasa. Did he do the right thing? Yes. Those people were going to rape and or kill her. But he got there right in the nick of time. But who was also there right after him would have been his dad. If he would have waited, his dad knew exactly where he was going, and he would have been able to save the day without two people being murdered. Now, would her mom have still been murdered? Absolutely. But in the off chance that he waited, his dad would have been there and the proper authorities would have been able to help and take over. Eren always makes the decision for himself and thinks, I know better than everyone else, and everybody else has to wait and react to what Eren does. As being shown when Eren decided to tell Levi and Hanch to their faces, hey, my friend Armin is better than your friend that led to stopping the Beast Titan. So the motherfucker that was actually going to kill all of us, now we've been able to stop him leading up to you being able to do something, but his life means more than the commander. And that's how Eren continued to go about things. Judge, I will turn everything over to whichever client you would like to have go first.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna keep my thoughts to myself. No, which ladies?
Sparks, as a guest, please, you are welcome to get up in there first.
Okay, so I took some notes while you were doing this, so I'm just going to kind of go over this case in point. But I do want to start off in saying that Eren, throughout this entire series, in my mind, is a hostage of Ymir. And when we look at the entire story of Attack on Titan, it's really his pleas and his negotiations to Ymir in order for him to allow for his people to live, also for the best outcomes for humanity, right? He had to follow through in order to protect his people. He also did this to stop a mass eugenics plot that was aided by his brother. Because at that time, when it comes to the crossbows, his brother was going to use Ymir's power to basically make everybody infertile. And that's not the way it was going, because when he inherits the attack Titan, he's able to see all these multiple threats of the future. He understands that these things are not going to work. You also see multiple times throughout the series that he tries to get people to do the right thing to stop what's coming. And the first instance that you have about that is in the first episode, where he's crying under the tree after waking up from his dream. And he goes to the scouts pleading with them to do something. He doesn't understand the time why he's doing that, but that's because he knows that the Colossal Titan is about to come up. Like, there's an innate thing there. Next thing we want to talk about is this idea that, like, oh, they had the tools, they had the Titans, when the Marlians were, for hundreds of years, creating mass terrorism by injecting people with the serum and sending Titans to their land in order to eradicate them, to terrorize them, and then in their own lands creating a second-class citizens for anybody who migrated there, and then sending child soldiers to infiltrate that area with the supposed monarchy. It's not Eren that decides to overthrow the government. The Marlians have been trying to do this for a while. The next thing is this idea of defending the monarchy, the same monarchy that brainwashed and lied to their people. These people don't even have flushable toilets. They don't have electricity. They're stuck in a time period that the rest of the world is not being able to engage with them, all because of this supposed monarchy. I'm not understanding why in the world that we're talking about justice, that we think it's just for a monarchy to continue to operate in that fashion, when it was needed that there was a need for transparency. In terms of this murder, I think it's very presumptuous to assume that the father of Eren would not have killed those people, because those authorities were not, like, right there. I also think that, like, it's a textbook self-defense case. In any court of law, a young person who's defending someone else in that manner, I don't understand how we're getting somebody for murder for that. And this idea that Eren does know better, and that this is why he's presumably doing things, at some point or another, we have to understand is that at every turn point, he is pushing people to do something differently. But at some point, when he's in negotiations with Ymir, and if you look at it from the aspects of him showing this story to Ymir about his case for why she should let him have the founding Titan's power, that's what he has to do, because Ymir is the one who wants to stop out all of humanity, all of it. Eren is the one who negotiates, how about just 95%, and I can show you what a better future could look like. So this idea that we're going to pigeonhole Eren as if though he asked for all of these things, as if though we don't see him in torment since day one about what's going on, as if though we don't see him pushing everybody in different ways to make different decisions that could aid in a different outcome, yet people continue to do what they do, because even with the Titan's power, he only has control over the subjects of Ymir. He doesn't have control over all of humanity. So that means the Marlians still going to world war with all the other countries. That means that all these other things are still at play, but Eren did what he tried to do in that case. And so I feel like a lot of this idea of trying to hold him up in a court of law when he's a part of an oppressed people, and he just did what he had to do in order to make sure that he could see some outcome where people could live, and we don't see a complete eradication of the earth. I mean, that's just what it is. And so with those reasons, that's why I'm defending Eren. And so I'm passing over to Princess Manahoke to add on to that.
So my co-counsel did a beautiful job in eating you up. Thank you. So there's not much left to go on, but I did, however, want to touch on one of the charges, and that was going to be the murder that you mentioned in defense of Mikasa. Number one, you openly stated that Eren had protected her from a dangerous situation. And I'd just like to bring it to your attention that that would be considered a defensive killing. And the only thing that needed to exist in that instance was a reasonable fear that someone was in danger of being hurt or potentially killed, which obviously someone had already been killed. So that fear is very reasonable. And on top of that, they were children. You mentioned that his father was coming and that he could have saved him, but I don't think Eren has the foresight to know that his father is running through the forest to come and save him. So I don't think that that necessarily, I'm not particularly feeling that point. Let me see what else. Also, you mentioned at some point during your reading of the charges, you brought up that Elia had gotten rid of their bargaining chip, being the Titans in the wall, and you also attributed that to the property damage charge. I just like to say that morally those walls are made out of people. Are we referring to them as property? I'm not entirely sure that we can consider that property damage. And then if you're referring to the damage that the Titans caused when they broke out the walls, if you have been locked in walls for hundreds of years, I don't think you give a fuck about a hut. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, that's really all I needed to add to that.
All right. So to be fair, I was thinking when you brought up the issue with in the cabin, that's something that's definitely got to be on somebody's record out there. They didn't just keep Mikasa and keep that shit a secret in the woods. At least it didn't feel like that when I was watching the show. So I mean, are we just using that as a point to establish behavior, or are you actually looking for a charge out of that more?
So that's actually a point to establish behavior, because when you look at that, that is the precursor to say, hey, this is Eren's actual behavior, and this is how he always has been. He has always been the kid who will rush into action first, even if you tell him, wait, we have a plan. Eren broke a lot. But
so what's the individual murder you talking about?
So the individual murder is that one, because of the fact that Eren ran up there when his dad specifically said, don't move.
Yeah. I'm just gonna... I'm
not to mention the murder of the
putting that out
military
there.
policeman when he was a scout, and Levi told him also, don't move. We don't need you to be out here on the front lines in case anything happens to you midway through. And Eren still decided, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I suppose you can use as a point of reference if you must, but as far as an actual charge, yeah, no, we're not even going to keep that on here.
So as an actual charge, I get why that couldn't stick, but as a point of reference to establish a behavioral pattern,
go for it. By all means, I don't care.
Eren's behavioral pattern shows that no matter what, he was going to say, I know best, and I'm going to do what I know best. And that's to state in the fact that every attack fighter...
Objection. You're trying to establish a pattern of behavior, but the only thing that you're proving is that...
Objection!
Sorry, that came in late.
Is someone who is willing to take action in defense of others. He saw that there was an injustice in the middle of being committed, and he stopped it. And then also, Eren was still a child. So even if you wanted to bring that up to establish behavior, we're talking about something that would have been reflected on a juvenile record that we wouldn't necessarily use in this particular case if he was charged, but he wouldn't because, obviously he was not at fault there. So
this is where we start to get science fiction-y, and then let's actual fiction, because Eren exists outside of time because of the specialties of how he has his power, and because he can send his memories back through time. Eren set all the plan in motion. So if Eren set all the plan in motion as an adult, and we can say adult Eren planned this and not child Eren, and he had the same sense of justice and freedom because that was passed through the Attack Titan, through all the memories, that's what they said. It was stated that the Attack Titan had the greatest sense of freedom. And that sense of freedom could only come from one memory that was pushed down throughout.
I object on a couple of grounds, actually. So for one, I think we need to forego talking about the murder, because at the end of that, you can see Eren's father talking to the authorities about it, and nobody comes after this child. I think we need to leave that as a moot point. There's no reason to argue it. He's fine. He did what he had to do. It was textbook self-defense. However, this idea around these memories and things of that nature is that you can see, especially as you get towards the end of the season, not only can Eren manipulate memories, but he also does not give himself full memories of what's going on. That's why when he wakes up under the tree, he's crying. He doesn't know why. There's multiple things that people are doing, and they don't know what's going on. The reality is, though, is that it's a chicken before the egg kind of situation. Because did Eren manufacture his birth? Does Eren, in what case comes first? Does Eren become born and then make things happen? Or was it that Eren then existed and then made sure he existed? You can't have it both ways to say that he set everything in motion when he is not the founding titan. He's not the founding titan. And the attack titan is a branch of the founding titan that was resulting because of the king who had Ymir's children eat her. That resulted in that. You can't fault Eren with putting something in motion when he does not have the root of what caused it.
There's a clear point where Eren establishes control over his memories, and that's when he gaslights
kisses Historia Reese's hand.
Yes, but I think we need to take it at that instance, though.
But see, you can't because of what he says to Armin.
No, not when he gets his memories back. I'm talking about when he establishes control over the situation. There's a clear point.
No, and that's what I'm saying. You have to take it from that moment when he does that.
And that point
but you can't because of what he said to Armin. He said to Armin, I set all of this in motion. When he himself says and states that I did this and I started this, I did everything that needed to happen.
His dad to kill the royals. That was that
because when his dad was talking to the guard, what did the guard say to his dad?
Oh, yeah, he has to protect Eren and Armin and Mikasa. However, I do want to point out though, throughout the entire series, Eren is a child.
But that happened before his birth. So when you ask, how does that chicken and egg work?
What I'm saying is that he's already decided to cast the blame on himself. He tells us that the world needs a villain. He is telling everyone to put it all on him and that it's on him because he knew because he had to negotiate with Ymir in order to get the power. Because Ymir always wanted to stamp out humanity. That's the thing. Ymir was chained up for hundreds of years in the afterlife and was ready to stomp everything out.
So
Eren decided to say, I'm going to take on the fall. I'll do what you want me to do, but I need to save these core group of people. So that's what I'm saying is that, like, you can say that he says that, like, he says these things, but that's because, for one, he is a child of war and he is taking accountability and responsibility in a place where no one has done so up to this point. The monarchy, the Marlians, anyone, he said, put it all on me because the world needs a villain in order to unite everyone. So even when he says, I put all these things in motion, he technically did. Because again, he was negotiating with Ymir. This story is about him showing everything to Ymir about what's going on. That's why the title of the episode is like, for you, 2,000 years later, and then to you, 2,000 years before. There's a reason that these letters are situated in that way, and it's because he's in conversation with Ymir, showing how these things can take place so she can get to her end goal of being freed and doing these type of things. I'm not negating that he says these things, but I'm saying we have to take it with a grain of salt that one, he's a child, and two, he is assuming the responsibility and accountability because he knows at the end of it, he's going to die a villain, he's going to be vilified, and he wants that cemented. He doesn't want anyone else. He doesn't want his friends to carry the blame because they didn't do X, Y, Z. Because at that point, he knows that he's got to take the fall. And no one else should be riddled with guilt or anything else about that.
Well, I will say that although Ymir set him up and this was all set up so that he's like the sympathetic villain and like he takes the blame, he is still the one who did it. You are still the one that said.
Before you go, I want to hear from Princess Mononoke. You got anything to add to that? Because
no, I don't have anything to add to that at this point. No, because my co-counsel was touching on the fact that he was essentially trying to judge this person who is still dealing with things with the mind of a child. I think that's it for right now. Oh, no. I did have something. I wanted you to explain more about this obstruction of justice charge.
Right. So,
well, hold on. Before we get to that, then we gotta kind of settle. Are we using the murder as a kid as a point of reference?
I thought we had said no to that.
No, we said we taking that out because
okay. All right, cool. I thought that we were still having that competitive conversation. I'm glad to hear that it was over. All right. Well,
thank you.
Just in that case, obstruction of justice. What you got, sir?
So, obstruction of justice is essentially having the military overthrown as they were in negotiations with another country about peace talks. So the justice was being done, and like they were trying to lead to a place where, hey, we don't have to be hunted down and seen as devils, and we can talk this out. We can see how this works and give us a chance, like a fair chance. There still had years, there was still time, there was still every situation where even if things aren't going right, you can still grab Historia's hand and say, hey, it's stomping time. But you didn't give anybody that chance. You decided that you know better, and you decided to overthrow the government. When Commander Pixis said, yo, we surrender, they still decided, nah, it's not enough, and we taking everybody out. So as the time was coming, and they're like, we need to get everyone free, we need to get everybody out of here, there was no way to charge these people. There was no military police. There was no nothing, because they decided to come through, take judge and jury to their own hands, and kill everybody.
So are you just talking about the fact that he took over? So the obstruction of justice is the coup that he led? Is that what you're referring to?
So the
Okay.
obstruction of justice goes directly into the coup.
Okay.
So I have to be real particular here. Which coup? Because there were two in that show.
That's crazy that like we put a man on trial and you have to say which coup, and y'all feel like, you know what, and he was justified in each coup.
Well, no.
So
See, here's the thing. Because one of them he clearly was not in charge of in any way, shape, or form. He just happened to be peace. And then there's one that he definitely led. He was definitely in charge of that shit.
So I would say not the one that the scouts led, because the scouts led a coup to overthrow for Historia, but it was the one that the Jaegerists led under his command, because it's different when it's, hey, they did this and I just kind of was there. No, he walked up behind them as if to say, I am the leader, I am in charge of this, and y'all will do as I say. We are Jaegerists because we are following what your command is to overthrow. So the second coup where he was the one that said, yeah, then I'll do it.
Okay. So
I think the whole thing is in English. Like you can definitely like
It
I
is.
feel like I watched the whole thing
Yeah.
in dub.
It's
Like
definitely done. As a matter of fact, that I don't think the rework of the last season is done, because they did a movie recently. Is the movie dubbed?
Not the movie, but like everything up to the last
That's what I
episode.
was saying. That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think the movie's dubbed because that just came out. But everything. But if you just want to go ahead and go through it, yeah, sure, go definitely do it.
I didn't even bother to watch the movie. I'd seen it, I'd read it. I wasn't going through to rewatch the movie of everything I've watched before. Like I'm good, big dog.
I'm not even mad they tried to get that off. I'm really not. I'm not. I didn't see it, but I'm not mad at them for it. They had to pay them. Mappa had to pay them people, so they had to get that somewhere.
Listen, Mappa got some bangers out there. Mappa was alright. Wasn't gonna get $20 out of me.
For real. What the hell? But all right. So he's talking about the coup of the Jaegerists. What y'all got?
Okay, so I'd like to touch on that. I think the biggest argument that we're going to have here is whether or not morality comes into play when your people have been murdered for hundreds of years. At some point, you have to toss morality out the window in order to enact some real change. And that's essentially what had to happen. Every coup is not necessarily bad. Sometimes you need to overthrow the government to actually see some tangible change.
Correct.
And this
With
is one
Historia, they did.
Okay, and that's fine. And you have a different opinion of what is an acceptable coup. You're trying to say that this one is unacceptable, but that one is acceptable. That is because of your feelings on the matter. And my feelings on this matter is that sometimes you have to make a change. They wanted to have these talks of peace when it had already been established that they see the people on our island as monsters. There's nothing that can change their mind. We could literally cure Titanism as a whole, and they did not care. Euthanasia, castration, and was a plan for their entire people. That was the best idea that they had come up with at that point. And then it wasn't, there were no assurances for that. They had people come over, they talked to them, they say, hey, are you going to help us? And when they went back over, what did they say? No, we're going to bomb that fucking island off of the map because there's a chance that they might become Titans, and we're not taking that chance. Furthermore, let's keep in mind that the Marleyans had been they were creating Titans and sending them to this island to terrorize these people. Exactly, and they shook that motherfucker. Sometimes you don't know how hard somebody gonna shake it, so you should mind your business. And that's what Marley should have did. You have people over there with armbands on to identify their lineage. And then they're sending Titans over here. They're creating the exact issue that is terrorizing these people. And I know that the talks were about, well, he didn't give them an opportunity to have peace talks. You don't seem to realize that peace was never an option. And if peace is not an option, me being quiet is not an option either. You're not going to tell me to shut the fuck up and eat my food and continue to terrorize me every day. It's simply not going to happen. So that coup was necessary. You guys want to take it slow. You want to have talks of peace. You want to make steam engines. Ooh, steam engine. They're coming over here with blimps. They're going to drop bombs on us. And what did they do? What did Marley do? They came over there and did what? Exactly. Peace was not an option. He did what had to be done. Y'all want to sit here and have talk? I don't want to talk no more. I want action. And that's what the Jaegers got. They got action. People started moving. Things started changing.
But at what cost?
If I can add as well to that, I think the point is there. And I think the thing is that the monarchy at the time did try to have peace talks. And that's how we end up with the walls. And that's how we end up with a group of people who were brainwashed and terrorized for hundreds of years inside of those walls, because that was their idea of peace. And even then, when he said, hey, I got all these giant colossal Titans, and if you mess with my people, I'm going to send them off. The Marleyans still felt like, you know what we're going to do? It's not that we want to eradicate the Titans, it's that they wanted to weaponize the Titans for themselves so it can help them in their conquest of the world. So let's not act like the Marleyans are innocent or like the Marleyans were ever open to peace, because even in the moment when the original king tried to put up that trump card about like, oh no, I got this, don't do this. They were like, oh, let me send Titans to your land to terrorize your people. And then he simultaneously brainwashed people, so they had no type of even memory of the world. Like Eren grew up thinking the ocean was imaginary. Like this is how we talk about this. So when we talk about this idea of peace talks and this idea of a coup, and that the coup was unjust, as if though people hadn't been trying for peace for a long time with the Marleyans and the rest of humanity, completely is just an erasure of history in terms of this world.
So I will say the second coup, in my mind, you can say, well, why was the first one more justified than the second one? The first one was more justified because when they overthrew the government, the first one would have led to people actually knowing, yo, the history that you've been learning is fake. Everything that you've been under is fake and false. And like, let's undo this. Let's unpack this. I get that, like, Marley was on their way. Like, yes, they were the big, bad, looming overall threat, but you killed a lot of your people. Like, a lot of Eldians died because of your thought process. A lot of Eldians died because you decided, hey, I want to go right, but you want to go left. And I'm telling you, we're all going right. So if you're not going to go right with me, then like, this is all about to go left for you. And like, that's what happened to a lot of them. Like, a lot of them got killed before or after the coup because of the fact that like, yo, you aren't going to stand with me. And that's not to say, hey, you know, Sasha died because of this or da da da. It's to say that like people die. It's a war and you go through war. But a lot of people died trying to defend and fight with Eren. A lot of people died trying to fight against Eren. And that was even before he decided.
So I guess my question is, if I am a commander in the military, and I'm sorry, I don't really know ranking, but if I'm a commander in the military and I send my troops to go and do a job, every single troop that dies that becomes a charge against me in some type of court, at the end of the day, you sign up for this, you know what it is. Are we referring to civilians or are we referring to soldiers? Because you've mentioned both. We can discuss the civilians, but the soldiers were there to do a job.
So the civilians were getting killed too. The civilians were getting stomped out. The civilians were dying because Eren was fighting every which way. Eren transforms into a Titan and everybody gets stomped out indiscriminately because Eren doesn't care. He knows how this ends for everybody.
Hold on. So when he is fighting in defense of the people within the walls and he transforms into a Titan and somebody's house accidentally gets thumped on, it's fine then. I'm confused because he's fighting for them. I'm big as fuck. I can't see the house. Are you expecting him to save every single person when he's doing his job? Because when he was fighting for the scouts and he was transforming into that Titan, I assume this wouldn't have been your argument.
So when he was fighting for the scouts and transforming, he only transformed under the guise of, hey, you can transform when we tell you to, because this power is still too unstable and too extraordinary for us to have a grasp on it and how this works. We don't want you always changing into a Titan. We don't even really want you out here on these front lines. They wanted to kill him immediately after they found out he could transform. They saved him. Like, keep in mind, they saved him under the guise of, hey, you will only transform when we need you to. You will only do what we need you to. And Levi specifically said, if you step out of line, I will kill you. And he backed down off of that. There were several moments where Eren should have died. There were several moments where Levi should have stepped in, and he did not because of the situation that it called for. And at no point did any of the situations that they were in, Eren was like, you know what? I think I know better than all of these military minds around me, that I can't consult with anybody else, and I know what I'm going to do. Like, yes, Ymir was holding everyone hostage, not just Eren. But Eren was the one that was yearning for freedom. Eren was the one whose dream was nothing but freedom. Eren saw nothing but his own freedom and the freedom of his people. And he stopped at nothing to get it. And my grandpa always used to tell me, if you're looking for revenge, dig two graves, one for you and one for them, because there's nothing that you're going to find at the end of that path of revenge except violence.
But it wasn't revenge. It was for freedom. He wasn't trying to get revenge against Marley. He was trying to free his people from the 100 years of fucking subjugation and terrorism from Marley.
So which one was it? When you said it, you said they had their foot on their neck. Like, if I'm trapped in a wall, foot on neck, I want revenge too. Because that's what that sounds like when you stomp out everybody indiscriminately.
No. So I was referring to the Titans within the wall. I was not referring to Eren. Because that point was made when we were discussing property damage and them wanting to break out, right?
So Eren going to go take back the Jaw Titan, not the Jaw Titan, the Warhammer Titan, and Eren going over and fighting against Reiner. Was that not revenge, or was that? Because I'm confused on what that was. Then, if that wasn't revenge,
that was a conversation. We were talking.
But the fight, though, what was the fight?
Like, I think especially when we talk about the idea of war,
conversation is wild.
I was like, when we talk about war, though, like the thing is that the war at the time was taking place on the island of Paradis, right? Which also involved casualties of like civilians and stuff like that as they continued to punch holes through the first wall and the second wall in order to terminate the foes, right? The only thing that happened was that the field changed to the Marlians. Yet Eren is being held accountable for this when we're talking about, and he's also being held accountable for when they bring it to his homeland. At this point, like, there's no designated battlefield in this world where war takes place. So I'm just trying to understand that, like, how are we penalizing him for what's going on in this moment when it's been an ongoing war and he's taking action in order to pull up and reclaim literal, like, weapons of mass destruction, because that's really what the Titans are. Because the Marlians, over the years, have systemically already found out about the Titans' transformations. have been stacking up those serums and we're injecting them into children and raising them to not only hate themselves, but think that they can win like some better like uprising for their family members in their world.
Eren didn't give a fuck about that.
I'm talking
That
about
ain't had
Reiner
nothing to
and
do
them.
with
So
Eren.
no, you're talking
Those
about the
people were not Eren's
back to
people.
Reiner and tries to get the Warhammer Titan and all these things, and yet we're trying to penalize them for the civilians that are there, even though that's like a microcosm to the
So
ongoing centuries of oppression that they face on Paradis, the number of casualties on that end. And
Gabby
then
would have
well, that
never stepped
actually
on that ship
that
and never
this
shot
this
Sasha
actually
had he
kind
not
the
killed her
civilian
friend.
lives on
hold
both sides. I'm
hold
just
on.
trying to ask when is the line drawn? When is
But
he?
that actually brings us to our last charge, which is actually mass murder. So, um, how about you go ahead and answer those questions when you're clarifying that particular charge for me, because
Mhm.
that seems like that's the only thing that we are. It seems like that's the point that we got to come over and cover
Look, as far as mass murder goes, all I'm gonna say is this: there were a lot of instances where a lot of people died because of Aaron's actions. There was the instance to take back Eren, where it's been argued that the soldiers knew what they signed up for, and I'll give you that because every scout had to sign up knowing that they would die. However, the transformations, the places, the fights that Eren broke out into trying to rescue Eren back, they counted how many people actually died and they talked about it. And Levi made a point to say how many times, how many people died, and how expensive it was for the people to get back Eren or for Eren to do something, or how many people died for them to take back the wall. It wasn't as though Aaron's transformations were instantly, boom, you transform and this becomes useful. You save the day. No, Aaron's transformation still came with like major casualties, major penalties from an island that only had starting out maybe 20,000 people. And by the end of that, they had about 3,000. There were a lot of people that died on that island because of the coups, because of the murders, because of everything that happened due to the Titans coming out. Not to mention the fight that broke out as Aaron tried to take back the Warhammer Titan that killed major people. That as many people want to argue and say, yo, fuck Gabby, it's always fuck Aaron for me. Because had Gabby's friend not died, she would not have jumped and ran so hard to get on that ship and shot Sasha. Shot Sasha. Jesus. Words are not wording. But Potato Girl died because of Aaron's actions, ultimately. Yes, I will pin that right back on Aaron. And that's not even before we get to the rumbling, which Aaron caused. And how much percent of the world got stumped out? I get it. You had a war against Marley. The war was coming against you. They want what you got, but there was a better way to handle things. There was a way that you and Historia could have made sure, yo, our people will not turn into Titans as they die. Our people can stop turning into purebred Titans. That was something that you could have actively done, and you could have actively controlled Ymir to do that. And instead, you said, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Mass murder is mass murder. I don't care how you justify it. I don't care if you say, listen, an eye for an eye, but that still makes the world blind. And we see what we get when we're blind. Everybody always wants to point back and say, yo, this is what I would do. This is what I would do. Well, this is what Eren did. It's not a debate as to where how many people died or where a lot of people died. A lot of civilians, a lot of soldiers, a lot of people died. And at some point, you do have to point that back at Aaron. No, you don't point it to a commander in the military or a military official at any point when people start dying around them. However, on the other hand, if too many soldiers are being sent to their death by your hand, yes, you do say, yo, you killed these people. Because there's a difference between a lawful order of you sending them to go do a job and then you sending them to their death. And in a lot of cases, these Jaegers were sent to their death. A lot of cases, people were being sent to their death because of Eren. A lot of cases, people were dying due to Eren's actions. I'm gonna leave it right there.
So we basically have every casualty of this particular battle. It seems like being laid at Eren's feet for the most part. What you guys got?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of our earlier points are kind of going to get brought up on this last charge. This is at the point in the trial where I'd like to bring up again, like my co-counsel stated earlier, that he was indeed a child of war. Okay. And sometimes when you grow up in that environment where you see nothing but the death of the people around you, everything is death, it's disorder, it's war, it's fighting. At some point, that becomes the way that you deal with things. Unfortunately, you have to meet violence with violence, and that is what we have here. There were a number of civilian casualties. That's true. We won't debate that, but we all also understand that civilian casualty is something that happens in war. That's why war is disgusting. No one enjoys war. Our client did not enjoy war. In fact, I don't think that this was something that he ever truly wanted to do, but there was simply no other way out of it. He had to do what was best to save the majority of the people. Again, I'll go back to my point earlier that peace was never going to be an option. So he gave the people on his island, and honestly, if we're being honest, the remaining people that were still alive, an option to kind of start and do something other than go to war. They could have chose peace after the rumbling, but that did not happen. Even after the rumbling had gone on, what happened to Paradis? 100 years later, did they not get bombed? I believe that happened. Paradis ultimately ended up getting bombed anyway. The Marlenes still came over there, the remaining ones, because if he had gotten rid of all of them, I bet you Paradis wouldn't have gotten bombed. But again, 100 years later, they're being bombed. The cycle starts again. And if the plan had been allowed to go to fruition, perhaps we wouldn't have seen that happen. Perhaps at some point, as humanity started to grow and rebuild itself, rebuild its cities, rebuild its population, maybe they would have chosen a different path. But unfortunately, some of that hatred still remained. It wasn't able to be stamped out entirely. And it blossomed and it bloomed. And ultimately what happened is they fell right back into the same trap. And unfortunately, now at this point, Paradis doesn't have the option to initiate the rumbling. They don't have that. So actually, I'm going to take that into my client's defense. Now Paradis has a fighting chance because we all got the same weapons. I got what you got and we got. It's an even playing field. So I believe that the rumbling was justified and necessary. And I believe that has been proven over the course of this entire trial thus far.
I would like to also add to my co-counsel here. I think that also this idea around the mass murder solely being on Eren is a bit false because he acts in accordance with Ymir. At no point is the rumbling happening without Ymir. And we've talked about this earlier about him being under duress under this entire time as he's negotiating with her. And this is her ultimate will to have this rumbling happening. I also asked too about at what point is someone responsible for the crimes that are committed when under duress? As we can see that Eren is, even though he wants freedom, is never freed. He actually dies not being freed because he's still tethered to things that are going on. He dies in order to free everyone else, including Ymir. I think also I think the idea of casting the blame of every casualty, whether it's on Paradis or the rest of the world, on Eren, continues to remove the agency of literally everyone else in the world. So at this point, we keep saying that, oh, this person did this because of this person did this because of this, even though they were not under the control of being the descendants of Ymir, continues to cast the blame. But yeah, it doesn't work the same way when we talk about the justifications of why Eren is acting the way that he does. I think that this idea when we talk about the mass murders happening is that, and to the point of my co-counsel, is that he's never wanted this. And we can see this in the episodes leading up or thereafter during the rumbling, when you see him just wanting to live his life with Mikasa. When you see him crying in the carnage of what is going on and the dreamscape and dream space that is happening in terms of the world that is happening. This is not something that Eren wants to do. And he understood that the moment that he kissed Historia's hand and went into a catatonic state, having to see and deal with this idea of crying about it because he knew he was being forced in this way. And so my question is how can we continue to cast blame on someone who has to do the things that has to be done when he's literally being forced in that way to do it because of what Ymir has put at stake. The only way he could eradicate the Titan strand from everyone's bloodline was in order to get Ymir on his side and to cause the rebel. She was not going to let him do it elsewise unless she got what she wanted. And I think the idea of taking away the agency of her or the king and how they put those things in motion from the beginning of what was going on continues to try to cast blame onto the literal child, someone who was shaped by the harms of this world, who at every time was asking people to do something different, even though at some point in the concept of time he knew better, and everyone discounted him, from the drunk scouts outside of the wall. He tried at multiple times to have moments of interjection, and everyone's agency still continued to do what he saw was happening. And so for that, I think when it comes to the charges of mass murder, we can't cast all of the murders onto him. Just because he transforms and parody to protect people, we're casting that on him. At what point does it stop? At what point do we say that the things in the world of Attack on Titan is just because humanity is shitty? And we see that in the aftermath, to my co-counsel's point, when the world still goes to war.
I just want to say the word of the day should be accountability, because if at some point we can take accountability, Eren should be accountable. But whatever.
But he was held accountable. He was held accountable. He was executed.
And then Casa did what she did because he should have protected his neck.
How much more accountable could I be if I didn't give my life?
Right, and cast myself as the villain to go down in the world's history books to be that guy. Like, he was ready to be held accountable. He was ready to die at that point.
A child taking on all the faults of the world. And
we keep saying a child as though he did not send these memories down past his lifetime before he was a child. Before he was a child, he spoke to someone to speak to Grisha.
He was 19 years old when he died.
Frontal lobe develops at what age? 26.
And how many eons did he have to develop that frontal lobe?
He started training for the Scouts at like 13. He lost his
mom. That was his choice.
10 or 11.
He wanted to be a scout since he was a child, though. It's not anybody forced this on Eren. No one forced Eren to do anything or to be anything. Eren was always this way.
Yes, he was always a hero. He always wanted to do things to defend the people within the walls. His people. He was always a hero of his people. You seem upset because he doesn't want to defend the others. Us first.
I don't see any point where Eren is acting in just his own interest, because his interest was to grow old with Mikasa in a cabin in the woods and die an old man.
That was his dream. That was not his interest. His interest was for freedom.
But he never got it.
Was to be free. He fought for his people's freedom. It doesn't matter what he got. He got what he got. He got what his ultimate goal was going to lead to. There was no way you overthrow a government, turn into a monster, and then say, all right, bro, when we done, we just going to grow old in the hills, right?
Yeah, but in your argument, you're saying as if though he's acting in his own interest, as if though he's acting for himself, when at the end of it, he's acting for other people. He's acting on the behest of other people at almost every turn, whether it's to save Mikasa, whether it's to save Paradis,
who asked him to do this?
People of the world. Eren has acted for other people.
Eren decided for himself that he knew better and to put himself in these places to do this. No one asked him to keep doing this. No one asked him to carry the burdens of all the people and to kill off everybody. No one told him that this is your destiny. Eren chose this.
Ymir literally asked him to do that.
Ymir is a subject of King Fritz, and King Fritz made her a slave. Ymir is a slave, and he spoke to a slave. He convinced her.
Might want to bring up charging.
And yet again, now we're getting into like the area of Stockholm syndrome, and that's just gonna further to me.
We're getting into the weeds when it comes down to this, though.
Yeah, we're not.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm ready to rule on this for real.
I think I know how this is going, and I want you to know, Judge, don't make me have to hug.
Oh my
We
Just
can't be
saying, I'm
out
a real
here.
huggy
Why
guy.
you keep threatening the judge?
We can't be out here threatening the judge.
Right.
This
That's a
is
real.
this
See,
is
how Eren of you.
right.
Right.
Shoot, let me have the button so I can hold. Let me have the button so I can put you in contempt. But the most jacked up part about this is the fact that we're kind of arguing the semantics of war crimes, because it's like it when it comes down to this type of thing, it really just kind of comes down to who actually wins and who is in power at the end of the day. The Jaegerists were in charge by the end of Attack on Titan, and
I feel like I know which way this is going.
I don't know, man.
Like, don't tell me that history is written by the winners, because that's what I feel like this is.
I mean,
it is though.
Look at the U.S.
Doflamingo spoke nothing but facts, my guy.
It's getting controversial.
But no, seriously though, if it's a question of did Eren do these things, most of this, yes, for sure. That mass murder charge, we can't take every casualty in the war between the Marlians and the people of Paradis and actually make Eren accountable for them.
Judge, I gave you several instances where Eren murdered multiple people. There were at least 3.
Hold on. I was about to say, at best, we can. For real, we can probably put him on the hook for the rumbling. Like, he's the one who pressed the button. Let's be real here. But in regards to, like, his actions in the course of everything, even beyond the first coup that was led by the scouts, he was a combatant. He was actually a soldier. He was doing a job, same as everybody else that was involved here.
Minus the job that he did.
The only one that the first murder that he probably needed to be on the hook for in regards to his actions, for real, it was in. Damn, and I hate to be coming to this guy's defense because he had everything coming to him. Was the leader of the leader of the entire military. The first guy he took out during his coup.
Commander Pixis?
Not Pixis, no. The guy who got a hold of the really, really freaky motherfucker. I cannot remember his name. Oh my god.
I know what you're talking about.
Was he a 69 god?
No, he was older. He was an older pale guy, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I always gotta get one joke in.
Before Erwin took over.
Not that guy. The guy who was actually in charge of the entire military. He sat over Eren's trial. When the commandant, I think that was his name. It was his rank. No, the guy who sat over Eren's trial. When
I know who you were referring to. I just can't picture what his rank and or name was.
I can't either, but basically he was the guy who was actually the leader of the entire military. That was his particular job. He was the interim until Historia actually took over. But he was actually the first person to actually get taken out by Eren. Like, Eren didn't dismantle the actual government. He left Historia in charge technically, but he definitely took over the military. And at that point, that could probably be the only instance I can consider him not necessarily a combatant at that moment, because he was in jail. They had already caught him out on Marley. He was in the middle of being being court-martialed, essentially. So to kill someone to get out your court-martial, hey, you a little out of line. So that one's probably like the only pre-rumbling murder that he probably would be on the hook for, because he definitely did not need to kill that man.
Fair.
Especially considering he didn't. Especially he seemed like he wasn't even the one who did it personally. He ordered that hit.
You know, you could change into a Titan. I'm not going to throw heights out there because when I did with Jack Skeleton, then I was told that's where I lost. So I'm not going to throw heights out, but you know.
Eren was a 9-meter tall Titan. That's a lot of person.
Hey, we don't throw heights out there because once you start to throw heights, then everybody starts to come up with like, I could change him. I could change him.
But nah. So for real, mass murder, I guess, maybe. It's so weird. Like I said, you can't call
all of
this
these hubs are working.
You can't call this because by the time that Attack on Titan was over with, the Jaegerists were in charge of the military. Historia wasn't going to charge them for anything at this point. Like, hey, they won.
Right. It's like the United States.
And I really, really hate making that particular comparison, but as you're going through your case, I keep hearing it, and I'm like...
You know I can't ever say that again. I can't. I lost the whole case when I said that.
But, I don't think you went in this one either. But...
Oh, no, you almost said it like super early, too, and I'm like, damn, bro, you can't... you can't be doing that. But
I learned my lesson. I pivoted.
Damage was done. Damage was done. Nah. Like I said, if it was a situation where we can actually hold Eren accountable for all of this stuff at this point, but yeah. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. But the people have already said that multiple times they think that Eren's entire case would be a mistrial. I mean,
Your Honor, is there no justice for the people?
Objection. Please let the judge judge.
Please let the judge judge.
Objection.
Ultimately, the justice here was not necessarily carried out by a proper authority.
It's bullshit.
Mute yourself.
Not mute yourself. Look, as far as obstruction of justice is concerned and the coup, we'll start there because we just had a whole conversation about it. He definitely did obstruct justice when he broke himself out, essentially, by murdering the commander of the army and basically starting a military coup on the spot. The problem is it was a successful coup. So the guy who would be holding him responsible is himself, and I'm sure we know how that's going to look.
So he broke the law, but we can't find him guilty on the law.
Yeah.
The destruction of property.
That way.
That's how uprisings work.
The destruction of property. Yeah. Nah. Look. Again, we need to have him pay these people back for all the property that they destroy, especially because there's still 20% of the planet left over that is not marked, that is not Eldia. Unfortunately, the governments that will be taking those payments no longer exist. So whoever would be left alive, like that whole
Objection!
It was stated that Marley still existed. If Marley still exists, then the government still holds up. And that if the government still holds up, he still owes them people money for destroying their property. Not once, but twice.
Marley was the first to be
Marley,
stomped out.
Nope,
Marley
Marley
was
did not
gone, bro.
always get stumped out because Marley existed because the Marleyan army still held out to fight against Eren.
That is them at the edge of a empire, not necessarily their government. And I guarantee you that that was a situation where that
Government,
government fell apart.
uh,
And to be
someone there
fair,
took
when
hold.
What I was going to say before you started trying to throw objections out here is that whatever territory is at the edge of that 20%, yeah, they need their money to rebuild what part of their territory got stomped out. That would be fair. But I mean,
can I just say, Judge? I'm sorry, but when they had the resources to rebuild, instead of asking for that money back, they decided to bomb Parody. So, I mean, they clearly did not want that money back, and they seem to have gotten it over in spades, and they invested in let me check my notes, guns.
I mean,
So
I'm
when
not
he
gonna.
does it, it's cool. It's a problem when we do
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. I'm speaking to the judge. Prosecution. I was speaking to the judge.
Guns. Look, look. I can't necessarily talk about the abstract stuff that happened at the end of the show. Quite frankly, yeah, not finishing the job may have started that, but not those people were warned. not not doing that at the end of the show, not not finishing the entire job like you were suggesting earlier is probably what led to that. I'm not gonna argue that. But at the same time, if we're gonna try and let bygones be bygones, if we're gonna try and start over for peace, some sort of reparations have to be put into place.
So, question.
So
shouldn't they be paying reparations to Eldia for?
Whoa! You
Where's
asking
the
a lot of
money
shit.
coming from in a world that's been rumbled? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, who exactly are you suing, or what? Where would you even recur, like, any type of reparations for damages for that? If this is somebody who now, according to everyone else's stat, like, is acting outside of the scope of
Eldia still has an active economy, and the countries that are left over that didn't get finished off, like we said, Eren did take out 80% of the population. Facts. But 20% of the population was still alive on the planet someplace at the other
There was
end of
some
the
sort of
planet,
scientist
clearly.
that came along because bombs don't just
The,
come from nowhere.
the point is there were still at least two separate economies, Eldia and whoever else was left over in that 20%. That 20% is entitled to whatever reparations they need to actually reestablish their borders. That's only fair. But as far as like everyone who's not there anymore, I mean, what do you want from me here? We're not talking about this.
Yeah, I guess it's just like I'm just trying to figure out like where in this case of like reparations is things happening, especially when we talk about the Eldians who were still stuck in like lanterns and lack of plumbing age while the rest of the world had more advanced technology. I'm just confused about what exactly folks would gain from the reparations
They
program.
were Eldia was already in talks with a country in order to get that type of stuff
The Japanese will go help them.
That country no longer exists, Your Honor.
They do.
That's not true. The Japanese country didn't get stumped out.
They did not get destroyed completely. That country still actually exists. They're one of the ones that actually had damage to their actual country, but did not get finished. That's what I'm saying. There are still places out there.
They are still places to send over here. They got something left.
I mean, they at least had the infrastructure to retry it. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's a situation where we should, pay the people who started the nonsense, because if you pay attention, yeah, you kind of see who started the nonsense when it really kind of spun out of control. But at the same time, if you want to let bygones be bygones, you gotta actually try. And in this case, if all things are fair, what Eren did with the rumbling was overkill. It wasn't a part of the plan. The plan was, hey, small demo, let's go ahead and drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki just to kind of prove a point. So that way we don't have to do this again.
But at the end of it, didn't like Armin and Mikasa and them go on like a peace like tour and try to like it broker those type of conversations in the aftermath?
Facts.
You can't broker that when
That
you
would
ain't
have
got
been
nothing to
part.
peace for.
That's them actively doing these reparations.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So it's already in place. I don't think there's a need.
That's not
But that only led to 100 years.
But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not necessarily talking about the end of the show because we can't. That's abstract. We don't know the circumstances,
right? But like
them dropping the bombs on them. But in regards to the act of diplomacy and all of that fun stuff, that would be. It's literally what happened at the end of the show.
Right.
They have to do that. So I'm not even bucking the trend by saying this. This is the thing.
Right. No, I was just proving the point. I was like, it's already happening. There's nothing to like because they wanted peace. I think that's the thing about it. Like,
Facts. I'm with you on that. But that's definitely gonna be the property damage and destruction of property charges. That they gotta answer for that. But when it comes down to the obstruction of justice and the overthrow of the government, again, the first time it happened, I suppose he's not even being charged for. The second time, I mean, he won. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But in regards to
Dracula all over again.
Nah, because he definitely had to be executed for the mass murder, which was the rumbling. So there's not. I'm not gonna say he was. Look. I'm not gonna say that he wasn't right. I'm not gonna say that he wasn't justified, but he
morally justified does not mean criminally right. Luigi was morally justified in shooting the CEO of the healthcare.
Allegedly.
But was he
allegedly? But we're not here to defend any of that.
I'm not here to defend Luigi. Allegedly, Luigi was right if this were to happen, OJ style, right? However, morally and I mean legally, no, that was not the right way to do things. Like that man could have just gotten fired. You could have like petitioned. You could have done things differently in the eyes of the legality. But I'm not saying morally what he did wasn't right. Like there were a lot of people that suffered because of the decisions that you made and that you decided on your own, or that you passed down. There were a lot of decisions that you made that. I mean, the healthcare, not the allegedly the healthcare guy.
But you can't keep using suffering as an excuse, because the reason why people act out, the reason why uprisings and revolutions happen is due to suffering. There is always going to be suffering. Suffering causes change. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth. Usually people don't change until it affects them.
No real revolution is fought without blood, and it's a really, 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 really unfortunate.
Stop watching musicals because I feel like you only got that from Les Mis.
I've never actually seen Les Mis. I'm gonna have to check that out now because that's the French Revolution one, isn't it?
Yes, the one with Hugh Jackman. It's a great watch if you have the time for it.
All right, I'll have to check that out because you know me.
I do. That's why I said that.
I digress. So yeah, as far as like counts, I suppose you got him on 2 out of 5.
I'll take that.
Yeah. I don't know, co-counsel. What you think?
I think that like if this is a criminal trial, no. But I think you could take those two things to a civil court if you're looking for reparations.
I'm not looking for reparations. I'm looking for him to like do some time for the mass murders.
What's time to do?
That's a separate charge of count. That's a separate charge.
Out just based off of that. I think to the point of the judge, if there's no one to hold them accountable and they technically won in the same brand of the fact of who's in power, they create the propaganda. And they did create the propaganda.
He was essentially held accountable. It's not like it's a situation where he did the job himself. He had to have someone come and stop him. So in regards to the deaths at Eren's hands and the rumbling, yeah, he had to get held accountable for that, which
Mhm.
is how the rumbling stopped.
Yeah.
But in regards to like the reparations and the property damage, yeah, he did that. That's why they're on the peace tour now, because
And not even that,
he
like you see the other flip side of it, of the propaganda that the Jaegerists create as well. And I'm saying, like, in the vein of revolution and whoever's in power, it is about like who's in power and how they cast that person as being either the villain or the hero.
Right.
But my
But
thing is
when
that when it comes to these being criminal charges or supposedly him being held accountable, like he wasn't being held accountable on overthrowing the government or obstruction of justice in parody. When it comes to
that's because
destruction of
he
property,
is the government.
this is a casualty of
he's
war.
the he is a
Property damage is a
he
casualty of war. I'm just saying.
he. I'm saying that yes, that is a casualty of war. Property damage is a real thing, but the side that usually has the more egregious crimes would usually be the side that pays that, and
Like
you
I
know,
can't hold you
flat,
accountable if you won.
flattening 80% of the world is probably the more egregious crime here. Just
But it's it's unfathomable, and it also he was acting out of accordance for what the LDS wanted because Historia didn't want that. So I'm still saying that, like, when you're talking about accountability in this case and trying to stick charges on a dead person, like, and nowhere in history, even like in like actual history, have we like sit a dead person to trial.
actually, we have. There was one time where they pulled the Pope up out of his grave in the basement of in the basement of the Vatican. There was another Pope who pulled him up. They tried his ass, found him guilty, and tossed him into a river. It's a real thing. Look the shit up.
Guinness Book
And
World
now
Records, baby.
Again,
we
I
can we
mistaken,
can we
but
can
my
put
point is still that, like, what are you gonna do? He got his head chopped off.
That's what I'm saying. And like he did put himself on the block to be held accountable for it, like we've already stated many times. So he did offer himself up. He allowed the stopping of the rumbling. The people that started it, the people who orchestrated it, allowed it. Zeke allowed himself to be beheaded. Eren allowed himself to be beheaded as well. They did what they came to do. They gave their lives. They were executed. I don't know what more you want. How are we about to charge a dead man who has already allowed himself to be killed?
Right, and
Ooh,
then
so what?
the
execution was
what he did.
you can't look. This isn't like Dracula, okay, where Dracula came back to life after his execution and didn't bother nobody else.
Objection!
Hear me out.
Eren actually did get executed for his crimes, which was the rumbling. Like
So
everything else that Maul tried to argue before the rumbling, no, that shit don't fly, Playboy. He was a soldier in the war, but the
you asked
rumbling
me what I
itself,
want.
Rumbling includes the destruction of property, though. So I'm just trying to
the
understand.
rumbling, the destruction of property would be what you would actually. So okay, so you're telling me that the winner in a war doesn't go back out to do humanitarian efforts or anything of that nature.
Has America done any rebuilding in Africa?
Not that I'm aware of off the top of my head, but that's not the subject that I'm super well versed in, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, you say there's a
But
thing, there was some aid done, and like we talked about, there were talks of peace. They did go around to these other nations, so I feel like some level of aid was provided. That part was done. They did what they were supposed to do. I thought that we had agreed on that previously.
Right, which is why I'm saying that would be something that they're admitting culpability for now at this point.
They're not admitting
and taking accountability,
but they're not admitting culpability. The thing is that Eren continued to act against what they were doing, right? So now we're saying that you want Eren to be held accountable, but now you're going to hold the people who were working to try to stop him accountable because they couldn't stop him in time, or because
what I'm saying is that they are actively doing it, and if we had to put something down on paper for what's happening here, just because they're actively already doing it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in a situation where, hey, now we're not going to court order this shit. Just, you still have to do it.
But Eren's the one on trial. They're not. So how are we court ordering them to do something when he wasn't acting on behest of Historia. He was acting in behest of Ymir, who is not the head of Paradis.
But no one else knows that.
No one knows in the
They
Ymir's
aren't hip to Ymir
faultiness.
is or what Ymir's culpability is. What I'm actually getting here is I just want the history books to say Eren was wrong and he's a criminal.
They already
That's
do.
what we need.
Mhm.
They already
He
do.
set it up that way. He orchestrated it that way. He took
Right.
the accountability so that the
He
history
literally
books should
Okay.
be written in that way.
This is
So y'all are
so the
admitting that
charges
Eren's a
that he
criminal. Case closed.
so
I win.
so the
No.
charges that at this point we're establishing
Rewind
the
the tape. I
charges that
won.
he at this point we're establishing the charges he has to take accountability for in his
Okay.
execution at this point. Okay. The destruction of property and the mass murder accompanied with the rumbling. Everything else prior to that you can write off as him being the combatant in war. But when he gained control of the rumbling and then pulled the trigger on doing it instead of actually just dealing with the force that was at his front door, because he didn't just deal with the force that was at his front door, he dealt with everyone, and that's where the line needed to be drawn.
But that's because Marley had already made Eldia out to be an enemy to the world. Every nation that they had any dealings with, they made sure that they were aware that Eldia was the threat, and we need to get together to wipe out this threat.
Because the king isolated Paradis so much that Paradis was not involved in the conversations that Marleyans had over literally centuries to prep the rest of the world to attack them. But my thing is, I don't know. I think the idea of scapegoating him on all of these things when Ymir and King Fritz are right there and the orchestrators of this entire plot is just like bothersome to put this all on a child of war.
It's not necessarily putting it all on Eren. I understand the context of what you're saying, that.
No, I mean it is like I'm saying it in terms of Eren.
So the question kind of becomes: do we want to charge Ymir?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Let me just say yes. We charge Ymir.
So case ends with Eren coming off the trial, and we switch all his charges to Ymir.
I
feel like that's fair. King Fritz.
Oh, fair.
I feel like that's the most fair compromise we can come to this, because at the end of the day, we all felt as though the crimes were committed, and we just did not want to place them on Eren's back. And if we were to say Eren was a slave to Ymir the entire time, and honestly, I've seen so many videos on this that like somebody convinced me somewhere along the YouTube hole that I went down that like this was all Ymir's dream, and that's why in the end Ymir switched it, and when Eren came out of his Titan form, he didn't actually die because he was still able to regenerate because his eyes were the same way. And it was like I went through a really deep dive of looking at all of this stuff.
Deep.
All right, so this
there's a deep dive.
All right, so
because Ymir is that like Ymir was so over it, y'all. Like, and for understandable reasons, but she was just so over it.
But like when Michelle said it, when Sparky said it to be like from you and then to you, it was a letter to say, hey, this is our conversation. This is what happened. These are my memories of how this went. And this is how. And then
that particular train of thought before. That was
there was a part where Ymir wakes up and Ymir sees it, and then she has the thought of like, and they actually went through the trouble of animating it where Fritz gets hit with the spear, and then she's running through the forest, and everybody's like, in hindsight, looking through it, like, that's what that scene meant. That scene actually meant this could end one in two ways, and the author didn't know which way to take, but he didn't want to like hop out that way. That's why he cried at the end. It just, there's a very, very deep dive of Attack on Titan. If you ever want to go down it, ask me my thoughts, because
I want to add to that's also why at the end, Ymir's always about like the Mikasa Eren thing, because to her, she didn't have a concept of like a man being able
what love was from a man to love her
love to another woman. So that's why they kept saying Mikasa was the key, because at the end of it, that's what like it's just. That's why I was like,
Eren of it all was the key to unlock it, to show her what it was like to actually love somebody instead of you're being used and held as a captive and a slave.
Yeah.
There was a deeper ending to Attack on Titan if you like.
All right.
I have a lot of thoughts.
So, damn. So,
Yeah.
are we really? All right. So, are we gonna do this? Are we acquitting Darren and coming back to run it back with Ymir later?
So
Are
I
we
think
judged? Are we?
I mean, it's the prosecution's case. I don't care.
y'all really gonna make me defend Ymir?
I mean,
only if you want to.
do we need to?
We could
Like,
just trash
I don't
talk.
think
Ymir
there's any
for an
defense for
episode.
Ymir. I
Yeah,
feel like we need to
just
just
unpack it together. Maybe not. Maybe it's not a court case. It's just unpacking the story of Attack on Titan.
So look, if y'all want a part 2, let us know in the comments because we can run this back for a part 2 and put Ymir on trial at a later date, maybe even next week. We'll look at the schedule, see what we got. But we'll run it back on the books and we can put it back and run Ymir on trial with the idea that it was all a theory? Question mark.
I could defend Ymir.
Ooh, I love a rebel.
not she's gonna.
She
Now
says with
she's
a
gonna
wide
get.
smile.
She said, "I'm gonna get one of the. I'm gonna get them both off." Now what?
I can defend Ymir. How about that? I got you.
I'm gonna get them both off.
I'll be
Low-key,
the
I know where she can go with that too. I feel like Ymir can get off as well, low-key.
Yeah.
I'm tuning in.
So yeah, this was the episode. It was great. Judge, how you feeling?
I don't know. And the thought that this was actually Ymir's thought was all Ymir's fault is kind of wild to me. Like for me, I was sitting here thinking that Ymir is almost as much of a victim of Eren as everyone else, for real, for real.
But now that changed your mind and rethought everything, huh?
It's at least worth hearing out. I mean, we can always just hold this off until we find out more about this Ymir angle because I'm interested now.
Princess Monohoke, how are you feeling on taking a pause on this case?
I mean, I'm fine with taking a pause, but I feel like we can wrap it up for Eren because we need to hear that verdict for our mans, and then we'll move on to Ymir. Because at this point, if we're moving on to Ymir, then the trial of Eren is done, and I need the judge to tell us what's in store for our client.
I agree.
Y'all really not trying to play the double jeopardy game. Y'all really trying to play the double jeopardy game right now, huh?
They are.
You can't do it.
They are.
You can't do it.
I mean, if I have to rule on Eren now, he's going on the hook for the property damage at the very least, because he's definitely the one who pressed the button.
Like my co-counsel said, we'll deal with that in civil court.
Now we'll deal with it in civil. I'm sorry. 80% of the world is definitely
civil.
criminal
it's not
levels
civil.
of property.
Not when you stumped out government buildings.
I'm referring to property damage. It is, okay.
Palaces, government facilities, international destruction of property.
Yeah.
Can execution be considered time served? Can execution be considered time served?
I mean,
are we
it's
going to
always
dig him
time
up and throw
served.
him
We
in the
can't
river?
I mean, it's always time served. We can't just kill him twice, but that's beside the point.
This is Dracula all over again.
And I feel like in the case of destruction of property and trying to get reparations, that's a case of the people versus Paradis, not a case of the people versus Eren, and that's a different court case entirely. So I don't think we should even discuss this idea of attributing punishment to a group of people when the person in question has already been executed.
What are you talking about? The Jaegerist, Eren was acting as an agent of the Jaegerist at that particular moment.
The Jaegerist self-organized around Eren. Eren did not organize the Jaegerists, so he's technically not their leader. They have a self-appointed leader amongst themselves. So, no. Eren's on trial. The Jaegerists are not on trial. Eren's on trial. If you want a case with the Jaegerists, we should have the people be the Jaegerists, or the people versus Paradis, or the people versus the descendants of Ymir. But we don't have that. We have Eren, and Eren has been held accountable for the things that Eren has specifically done.
which was pressing the button that started the rumble.
Sure. However, the
Yeah.
rumbling is the judgment that we have not.
Not,
It's
sir,
the judgment
I'm
that
gonna
we
throw
have
something
not
at her.
adjudicated on because we're waiting to try Ymir. And I think that's the only one we're putting pause on. It's the rumbling and the mass murders and the destruction that happened thereof from the rumbling. And we're trying to see if Ymir is the one who's guilty for that versus Eren. But we can't cast anything for that right now because we haven't determined who's the guilty party for that.
This sounds like a mistrial.
I'm just saying.
I hate this.
I hate this so much. I told you, and y'all said this is gonna be funny. It's gonna be hilarious. We're gonna bring Sparky on. This is gonna be great. And I told you, said this when we were arguing at 3 a.m, and no one wanted to believe me. No one said, you know what? The nigga that's over there high on shrooms is probably the smartest one in the room right now.
No one should be saying that. No one should be saying that.
But I was left responsible. Just want to say.
Look, I love Sparks. Come back. Come back.
Don't come back.
If schedule permits, anytime. Just let me know when. I'm ready for this Ymir conversation. Because I got thoughts. Because, oh my gosh, the ending and then seeing, I was just like, don't get me wrong. I love Attack on Titan. I love the creator, but he really fumbled on that story with Ymir.
Yeah.
That's why my tag is Ymir is guilty. Not guilty, but she kind of is. And I blame that on the fact that for most shonen anime, they don't know how to write women. So I'm just putting that out.
That's true.
Because they also did a failing on Mikasa too, but that's a whole other argument.
That's a different story.
I know. I'm just saying in general,
Different
though.
type of failing.
The reason why Eren gets out is because the writer is great at writing with masculine characters versus the women in the show. Just naming that.
That's true. Even when he tried to draw and write Levi with more feminine traits, it didn't really hit as hard as Levi with everything else he did.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I personally think Gabby was excellently written. Just putting that out there.
Kind of. Like, I mean,
But Gabby was written as a tomboy, not as a straight
Gabby
up
was written
girl.
as a foil to Eren because she's basically like a little Eren.
Yeah.
She has the same motivation.
Female Eren.
Like, she's a little Eren. And that's fine because she's just the feminine version of him. And Sasha was a good character too. Like, some of the B plot characters are cool, but for these main plot movers like Ymir, okay, I'm just saying Ymir deserved more. Justice for Ymir.
I mean, Sasha wasn't like a greatly written character. She was just funny.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then the other one, the one that was she died in a blaze of glory, I loved her too.
The other Ymir?
Hanji.
Yes, thank you.
No, I loved Hanji. Hanji was my girl.
Yes.
We all love Hanji.
Like, she was amazing. So,
I'm not gonna lie. I read that scene and I didn't pick up Attack on Titan until it was done. Like,
listen, when Erwin and Hanj die, it gets me every time as if I'm Levi. Like,
just watch it. Oh no, the actual anime scene with Hanji. Oh my god! If you did, I'm sorry, I can't help you. If there was at least A tier.
It's right up there with like the Maze like funeral scene for me. Like, it gets me every time, dog. Like, I just.
All right, so
don't ask me how many times I rewatched that anime.
Look. Eren's guilty of the deaths after the rumbling. Okay. And when it comes down to the property damage, yeah, we're gonna have to hold him accountable. But you know what? Parody is doing the right thing by going out of their way and saying, "Hey, our boy kind of fucked up. We will help." That's nothing to do with them. That's not a failing on their part for Eren going around stomping motherfuckers flat. But that's that. As far as like the coup and all of that shit that went along with that prior to the rumbling, yeah, holding Aaron accountable for that stuff is just it doesn't work. Like, I mean, yeah, the situation with him going to Marlia and taking out their brass, that was pretty egregious because that was an attack that he just kind of instigated himself to kind of force the island's hand. But even then, he was being held accountable, and this would be the only time that I would say he was out of line for going out and murdering the person who was going to hold him accountable. There was clearly you were wrong. But as far as Ymir being responsible for all of this, I mean, once we get this Ymir verdict, if y'all want to acquit, I mean, not acquit, but appeal. Shit. I'm sure we can find someone who can judge it.
It looks like that's the route we're gonna be taking, huh?
I mean, I'll take it. I will take this nigga murder people. Like,
Allegedly.
take it.
Allegedly.
What do you mean allegedly?
Allegedly.
What's alleged? What's alleged about it?
Allegedly.
I mean, because if I do it under duress and someone else is controlling me, did I really do it or did they?
Right.
They are allowed to say alleged if they plan to appeal, my guy. As far as today is concerned, you have won the day on the murder rap. Just take your
I broke her
victory lap.
streak. She brought a friend and I broke her streak.
Hey,
I don't know.
I guarantee.
We still got an out.
Look.
No, it's Ymir.
Do we? Oh,
we do. Defense is feeling motivated. Okay, ain't no problem.
But I think we're gonna call it for part 2, and we'll do part 2 next week.
I was about to say because I thought we was getting ready to do Ymir next week at this point because now I want to hear what you got to say about this because
because we gotta take some time, come back with some more notes.
Mm-hmm.
So we will. So, Judge, what's your ruling on this one?
Well, like I said, guilty on the rumbling, guilty on the property damage, everything else.
Then if I won, we're gonna call it. If I won, we're gonna call it.
You had
like 50%.
You had 5 charges that you put out here, bro. One of them got tossed out early as hell. The other 2 you didn't get.
A win is a win. If I won, I'm gonna call it. Listen.
You got 2 out of 5.
It's gonna keep
you got 40%. That doesn't fly.
If I get 40% of the property,
and she gonna take a mile every time.
Did I still not get 40%? Like 40% is still 40%.
That's not even half.
A victory is a victory. 40% is 40%. You got to get it by the inches. Listen, we will be back next week because clearly we can't stop arguing this, and we've already moved on to the next client. I am all your favorite friendly neighborhood menace. You can find me here on Blur Trap House every Saturday at 7. Sundays, you can find me here every Sunday at 7 at Anime Court. You can find me on Instagram at Blurred X Trap House. You can find me on TikTok at Blurred X Trap House. You can find me on Facebook at UNAB Network. Princess Monohoke, where can they find you at?
You can usually find me in the trap house on the weekends. You can find me on the socials, maybe soon. Yeah, I'll see y'all next week, hopefully.
Sparky, where can they find you at?
You can find me online on most platforms at I am Sparky, the letter I, the letter M, Sparky. That's it. And then sometimes I'm here. It just depends. That's what it's like.
Sometimes she's just a hater.
I just pop up. But thanks for having me. This was great.
Well, we enjoyed having you. Judge D, where can they find you at?
Trap House every Saturday typically. Whenever we decide we want to do Anime Court, I will always be available to come and be a fair and balanced judge because I just enjoy sitting in on y'all arguments. This shit's funny to me.
I don't pick these fights. Sometimes I just say something and then it's like, well, that was stupid. And then it's like,
To be fair, Aaron is a real conversation that we need to have. Like I love my Jaegerist, but we got to take the blinders off at some point.
at some point,
But I
we
know
all
what you're
got to
talking
sit down
about.
and take accountability. I was
I don't
told
know what
so
you're
as
talking
I
about.
pushed every button on the elevator with my backpack, just blindly so after doing drugs and drinking. I know it's terrible.
I just did it because of lack of spatial awareness. I understand what you mean.
I didn't even realize my bag was that big, and I am sorry. But
Mm-mm.
until next time, we will see you next week where we bring up Ymir on the same charges or similar charges, I guess. We'll talk about it in the backstage. But we'll see you guys on the next one. We appreciate you for staying tuned and come back next week. See you then.